the Hidden Ones. The legend begins. Imagine a time of powerful empires, sultans and kings living in grand palaces surrounded by gods. Now imagine them living in constant fear. Fear of a hidden enemy, an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime. Whispers filled the Cortes. Whispers of shadows that dealt death with chilling precision. They appeared from nowhere, carried out their deadly task, and often vanished, or died with a calm resolve. These were the Fida'i, the devoted ones. History would remember them by another name, the Assassins. But who were they? And who was the mastermind pulling the strings from a remote mountain fortress? This is the story of Hasan Sabbah and the lethal order he created. Our story begins not with shadows, but with a man named Hasan Sabbah. Born in Persia around the mid-11th century, he was a brilliant scholar and a devout follower of Ismaili Islam, a branch of Shia Islam. At the time, the powerful Seljuk Empire, who were Sunni Muslims, ruled the region. Ismailis like Hassan faced persecution. Hassan believed his community needed a safe haven, a place to practice their faith freely and resist Seljuk control. He traveled widely, gathering followers, preaching his message. His eyes fell upon a formidable fortress perched high in the remote Elburz Mountains. Its name was Alamut. Legend says he didn't conquer Alamut with a large army. He infiltrated it cleverly, using strategy and influence to win it over, almost without bloodshed. In 1090, Alamut became his stronghold, the Eagle's Nest. From this near impenetrable fortress, Hasan Sabbah would challenge an empire. Alamut was more than just a fortress. It became a center of learning and the training ground for Hassan's most dedicated followers. He called them Fida'i, meaning those who sacrificed themselves. They weren't mindless killers. They were highly intelligent, intensely loyal, and rigorously trained. Their training was legendary. They mastered physical skills, combat, stealth, endurance, the art of disguise. They learned to blend into any environment, They received deep intellectual and spiritual instruction. They learned languages, studied their enemies' cultures. Most importantly, they were taught absolute devotion to their cause and to Hasan Sabbah. This loyalty was unbreakable. They faced death without fear, believing their actions served a higher purpose. This unwavering commitment seemed almost supernatural to their enemies. How could mere men be so fearless, so devoted? This profound loyalty, combined with their skills, made the Fida'i incredibly effective. They became Hasan's sharpest weapon. Hasan Sabbah knew he couldn't defeat the mighty Seljuk Empire in open battle. His forces were too small. So he chose a different strategy: psychological warfare. His weapon of choice was targeted assassination. The Fida'i were sent on specific missions to eliminate key figures within the Seljuk power structure. Their targets were powerful viziers, generals, commanders, the people holding the empire together. They rarely targeted ordinary civilians. One of their most famous victims was Nizam al-Mulk, the brilliant and powerful vizier of the Seljuk Sultan. His death sent shockwaves through the empire. The assassinations were often carried out in public places, in mosques, in busy streets, even in the victim's own court. The Fida'i usually didn't try to escape. They knew it was likely a suicide mission. This public display achieved two goals. It eliminated the target, and it spread maximum fear. No one felt safe. Any leader who opposed Hasan Sabbah knew they could be next. The assassins became masters of terror, their reputation often more powerful than their blades. Over time, incredible stories began to circulate about Hasan Sabbah and his assassins. Tales spread largely by their enemies and later by travelers like Marco Polo spoke of secret gardens, a paradise used to trick recruits. They claim Hasan used drugs like hashish to control his followers, giving rise to the name assassin. However, most modern historians believe these stories are myths or exaggerations. There's little real evidence for the drug use or the paradise gardens. The Fida'i's loyalty likely came from intense religious devotion, psychological conditioning, and belief in their cause, not from drugs. Hasan Sabbah ruled Alamut for over 30 years, living a simple, disciplined life, rarely leaving the fortress. His Nizari Ismailis state survived for over 150 years after his death. But eventually, in the 13th century, the Mongol horde swept across Persia. They besieged and destroyed Alamut, burning its famous library, losing vast amounts of knowledge about Hasan and his followers forever. What remains is a complex history, shrouded in mystery and myth. The assassins weren't supernatural demons, but real people, driven by faith and expertly trained for a deadly purpose. Hasan Sabbah was a brilliant strategist, a charismatic leader, and the architect of one of history's most feared organizations. His assassins, the Fida'i, were masters of stealth, psychological warfare, and unwavering devotion. They proved that a small, determined group could challenge mighty empires through unconventional means. While the legends of drugs and paradise gardens are likely false, the reality of their discipline, their effectiveness, and the terror they inspired is undeniable. The destruction of Alamut buried many of their secrets, leaving us with an enduring enigma. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how they killed, but the sheer power of belief and loyalty that Hasan Sabbah commanded. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how they killed, but the sheer power of belief and loyalty that Hasan Sabbah commanded. A power that forged shadows into deadly weapons. What do you find most fascinating about the assassins? Let's know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.